Okay, so Kyle's got the first question here. So he'd like to talk about file management. So like I guess we'll cover some definitions and where things are. So he's asking, what are templates? What are strategies? Let's see, yeah, how do you save stuff? How do you import stuff? How do you open files, etc.? Okay, sure. Sounds good, Kyle. All right, let's see. All right, uh, let's put the S&P away, and let's pull up a chart for today. All right, yeah, here we go. Here's a good chart today. All right, so file management. Okay, so the word template is a general term that NinjaTrader uses for file. So yeah, when you hear the word template, it really just means a file, like a settings file. So if you take a look at your NinjaTrader 7 folder, and let's organize, sort by alphabetical order. So you'll notice that there's a templates folder. And if we go into this folder, let's open this folder up here over here as well. So you'll see inside this folder, right, a bunch of subfolders. So there's BloodHound, right, so that's clearly where all the BloodHound files go, where all the BloodHound templates go. And you'll see here's the chart. There's chart 1, indicator 1. These are probably going to be ones that you're familiar with. And market analyzer 1, you might be familiar with that if you're using a market analyzer in the strategy, right? So what goes in the chart folder here is, let's shrink this up a little bit. When you right click and you go to templates and you load or save, right? This is a list of all the chart templates, listed inside this chart folder. So basically, a template is kind of like a settings. It's a settings file. So you're loading up this predefined settings for your chart. So that's basically what all those templates are, is predefined settings. So, and so with BloodHound, right, we're using the, we always use NinjaTrader's, what's the right word? We always use what NinjaTrader's methodology. Whenever we write stuff, we try to follow whatever NinjaTrader's system of ways that NinjaTrader's already set things up. So with BloodHound, when you go and open a BloodHound file, you'll see that it is in, there we go. So you can see it's in the Ninja 7 folder here, and then it's down in templates, and then it's in BloodHound. You can also see it up at the top here sometimes, right? So you got Ninja 7, templates, and then BloodHound, and right, so that's where all your BloodHound files are stored. So BloodHound file, BloodHound template is one and the same thing. So so of course under file you have your typical file management, right? So we can, let's see, if I have something loaded up, let's load up this one, and then I want to start from scratch, I can just click new, and it'll clear out, right, the existing BloodHound file or template that's loaded, and right, start from scratch. Of course, there's save and then save as. One thing to note, one thing that people get confused about, the difference between save and save as. So if I load this up, and let me just add a time solver here. Add that on here. So I added a time solver onto the 1 minute chart down here at the bottom. And if I do a save as, and let's just call this number 3, right? Crossover test number 3. Do a save. So now crossover test number 3 has the time solver in it. But if I load back up crossover test number 2, you'll see that crossover test number 2 does not have that time solver in it because I never saved it, right? I went and added a time solver, but I never saved the file. I did a save as, right? So save as does not do a save and a save as. It only does a save as. So one thing to keep in mind there, guys. So if I wanted to make sure that this new solver is saved in this number 2 file, I first have to do a save and then go and do a save as, and then that, and then all those new changes, any new changes I've made to this get saved to number 2, and then I could also do a save as and save it in another file. So now the change button is simply just a nice quick way to change the file name here. Just a nice quick way. So it pulls up the save as, just because the save as is a little more functional, right? So practically speaking, let me clear everything out here. So if let's refresh the chart. All right. So if you're starting with BloodHound blank, we just put a save as. Really, the change is a save as button, but the first thing you want to do is change the name, right? There is no name, so we're just going to want to change that name there. And you just put in a name. So let's put in today's name. So all right, so today's the 10th. So there is today's workshop name. So there we go. So we've got today's file named for us already. So let's see some other things here. So I'll just kind of go over this quickly here because this is really NinjaTrader stuff. So if you want more detailed information on what these other folders are for NinjaTrader, I would suggest that you contact them or look in their help document to get more information. But what's inside this indicator folder are if I pull up the MACD here, all right, so I have the MACD pulled up, and whenever you right click and you get this set default for MACD, that's what these files are. So you can see I've got one set for the MACD because it saves my custom blue and kind of this dark bluish color for the histogram. So and the reason why I mention this is because quite often we do updates to BloodHound, and NinjaTrader doesn't know how to manage updates to an indicator. So these files can interfere whenever an indicator gets updated. So I've got one here for BloodHound, and so whenever there's an update, should keep in mind that these should get deleted. So our installer tries to delete these as well, but sometimes, I don't know, sometimes they get stuck and they don't get deleted. And so when there's a BloodHound update, sometimes you get these NinjaTrader XML errors. And whenever you get a NinjaTrader XML error, it just means that this file for the indicator needs to get deleted. So, right. Same thing might happen with a strategy. You might have a set default for a strategy, and if you get an XML error for that, it just means you need to go into the strategy folder here and delete your template file for that strategy. Yeah. So that's what template files are. You'll also notice here, whenever you run the Shark Indicator installer, it backs up your BloodHound files, so that way you get these backups. So you can see I've ran about six updates over quite a while. So let's see. I'm going to clear these out here. Do a little file management of my own. There we go. So, all right. Well, so that's a quick synopsis of files there. And so let me just see if there's any comments on there. Let's see. Yeah, so Kyle is asking, templates include indicators, and yes, it does. So as you can see, yeah, there's an indicator folder there. Let's see. Vic is asking, in the templates folder, I have a separate file folder called BloodHound. Should I delete this? No, absolutely not. No, don't delete that BloodHound folder. So if you do, you'll delete all your BloodHound files. Yeah, so yeah, Kyle, don't delete that BloodHound folder. Just keep it in the templates folder. Right. So you can see over here, we have. Actually, let's take a look at. We'll look at it this way. There we go. So you can see, yeah, the BloodHound folder is tucked inside of the templates folder, and that's where it should be. So, all right. Okay, yeah. So Kyle is asking, can one BloodHound strategy, so technically speaking, BloodHound doesn't contain strategies. If you're keeping in line with NinjaTrader's terminology, BloodHound doesn't contain strategies per se, right? So if you right click on your chart, right, and you go to add an indicator, you can see there's an indicator class and there's a strategy class. So technically speaking, strategies are a different class than indicators, right? Strategies do different things that indicators cannot do. But you could loosely say that, yeah, that your BloodHound is building kind of a strategy signals or something. So, right? I mean, basically, you take your trading, strategy and you build it into BloodHound. That's kind of what BloodHound's for. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, strategy is it's a technical term in NinjaTrader, but it's also a loose term, to kind of define a loose term to be the class of your trading strategy. So, all right. So, anyways, Kyle's question is, can one BloodHound strategy include multiple instances of signals? Yes, it can. So that's what this pull-down menu is for. So, if we open up BloodHound again here, and actually, instead of this, let me pull up another chart. Here we go. So this is from last week. So you'll see that this pull-down menu are the logic templates. And you can see that there's many logic templates here. And the purpose of all these logic templates is they contain different signals. Right? They contain different trading ideas, different trade signals, as you see fit to break them up. So you can see there's an entry conservative. That's abbreviation for conservative. There's exit signals. All right, so there's the exit signals, and then there's an entry liberal. I have a liberal, little more liberal signal there. Probably kind of hard to see. There we go. And also there's something called the sweet spot, and sweet spot with signals. Right, so all these different types of entry signals and or exit signals. So, yep. Okay. All right, yeah. So that answers Kyle's second question there about the pull-down menu as well. So. Let's see. Okay, and then the follow-up question is, how do you create and delete various templates? Well, so let's go back to today's chart. So, to create a template, first of all, you just need to give it a name, right? So you can just use the change button, to give your system a name, and that creates a file right then and there. And also one thing to note is whenever you close BloodHound, whenever you close this interface, that also saves the file. So BloodHound always saves back to the file whenever that interface has to close. So for example, if I have BloodHound open over here and say I do something to my chart, like if I add another indicator to my chart and I click OK, what happens? Well, the chart had to refresh, right? Whenever you add something to a chart, it refreshes, and you can see that BloodHound had to close as well. And so when the interface was forced to close so that the chart could refresh, that saved your work back to the file. So, all right, so BloodHound, whenever this interface closes, it's always saving back to the file, right, as a safety precaution. There. To delete files, there's no delete in here, so you could just use the open, I guess, and then you could right-click on a file and hit delete. Right, you just have to use the Windows method for deleting files. So, right, so you can just go and hit delete, or of course you could just use the File Explorer. Go to your Ninja 7 folder, go to Templates, go to inside BloodHound, and take a look at all your files and delete them that way. So I'll delete this test 3 here and clean it out that way. And for some reason this Windows does not like to update itself, so just F5 that. There we go. And okay, so Vic is asking, is the pull down menu specific to the BloodHound template? Yes, it is. Absolutely. So you can only have one BloodHound file loaded into BloodHound at any one time. So let me pull up this other chart here again that I was showing you earlier, right? So, right, you've got this pull down menu. And what this pull down menu is if I open up BloodHound, when you go to the Logic tab, you see this pull down menu here in the Logic tab? So these are all the Logic templates, right? So you have a BloodHound template, which basically is the file. I guess one analogy I use is, think of this as a Word document. So, right, this is the file name for your Word document. So you could say that, this is the name of your book, And then if you're writing a book, your book has multiple chapters. Well, you could think of the logic template as the chapters inside your book. So, right, so these multiple logic templates. So these, think of these logic templates as kind of like chapters inside of your book that you're writing. Right. So these logic templates all reside in this one BloodHound file. So, yeah. So the solver list, the solver tab, shows you all the solvers that have ever been created in this BloodHound file, and the logic template just allows you to take those solvers and build different signals. Yeah, just different signals all within the same file. So, classic example is, right, you could build a conservative set of signals. You could build a more liberal set of signals. A lot of traders like to do a long only set of signals or a short only set of signals as well. So things like that. And so yeah, if we take a look at this list, this pull down menu of logic templates, you'll see it matches the pull down menu on the chart exactly. So, and yeah, okay, right. And the other question is about deleting and making new logic templates here. So you can see there's buttons on the right side here. So if you want to make a new logic template, right, just click the new button, and there you go. There's a new logic template. It's blank. So if I zoom way out, you'll see it's blank, nothing there. Zoom way in. So you can see there's a pan button here if you don't have a middle mouse button. But if you have a middle mouse button and you hold the middle mouse button down, that pans around. And if you have a scroll wheel, your mouse scroll wheel scrolls in and out like so. And there's a copy button here as well, and a delete button. So, right, so let me delete this, and I can grab this, I guess, entry, conservative entry, and if I wanted to make just a slight alteration to it, and to make a different set of signals, I can just click the copy button, and you'll see I now have entry conservative on top and a copy on the bottom, and then I can just rename this. I can rename this to something, whatever I want, and then just go and change the logic. So, all right, let me delete that. Okay, let's see what else we got here. And so Kyle is asking, so cycling from one logic template to the next changes the, I call it signals on the chart. Yes, that does. Yeah, so let's pull the chart back up here. So on this chart, here, let me make some changes here. There we go. So hopefully the green buy signals stand out a little better now, right? So you can see there's two green buy signals on the chart, and of course if I look at something different, like if I pull up the exit signals, right, you can see that looks totally different. So now you can see there's a bunch of red and green signals on the chart, and if I go to entry liberal, you can see entry liberal has two buy signals and it has a short signal as well. So, right. So that's exactly what, how the signals you choose to build into all these logic templates is, up to you, really. But I mean, the purpose is to put, a different set of trading signals in each of these logic templates as you see fit. But it's really up to the user to decide, how to use these logic templates. So, all right, and let's see what other questions we got here. Okay, so Kyle is asking, does adding Raven change anything in terms of file management or logic templates? No, absolutely no, not at all. Basically, let's close this out here. Adding Raven. So Raven is a strategy, so you have to go into the strategy class here to find Raven, and there's Raven under strategies. So if we add Raven there, essentially, Raven is just the class inside of NinjaTrader that allows you to auto trade your signals. Raven is, the Raven strategy is specifically written to utilize BloodHound signals only. So Raven's only going to trade your BloodHound templates. So when you go into templates here, this is asking for a BloodHound template. So you click the button, that's going to open up BloodHound here, and then you can go and choose your BloodHound system. And so let's just put it on some entry conservative there. So let's say that's the signals we want to see on the chart, and that we want Raven to trade. We'll click OK. And then you can see here's the logic templates available inside of that BloodHound file. So we'll pick entry conservative, and then for the exit logic, this BloodHound file just happens to have an exit logic, so we'll just click on there for exit. And that's really the only file or file management that Raven has. Is Raven just loads up your BloodHound file. So that's really the only file management that there is for Raven. So let's see. Once again, going back to the earlier, file management discussion earlier, with strategies, you can also right-click on here and set default for Raven. Once again, Raven has gone through several updates, and so these set default files, NinjaTrader doesn't know how to handle them if Raven gets updated. So when so the set default file is a file that NinjaTrader makes, and if Raven gets updated, NinjaTrader doesn't know how to handle the differences between the file that it created and the new settings that Raven might have with an update. So these set default files can cause XML errors. Nothing really to be worried about, but let me just you can actually see it happening in real time. So so I went into NinjaTrader 7, into templates, and into the strategy folder. You can see right now it's empty, but if I go over here to let's see, oh darn it, that chart is going to get in the way. Okay, just over here. I'm gonna shrink this chart so it doesn't cover up the file explorer. So let's go into strategies again. If I pull Raven up, okay, so if there we go. So if I right click on here and click set default for Raven, if I create this default file, and then bingo, you can see this file just got created over here inside the strategy folder. So yeah, so I recommend that you don't ever do this. Use the set default, unless you're good at file management, because if there is ever a BloodHound update and a Raven update, you want to delete these files because NinjaTrader just doesn't know how to handle the differences between the file and the new settings. Whenever there's an update. So let's get rid of that. All right. Let's close that out. And all right, so Kyle's follow-up question to the updates is, will BloodHound look for updates? Yes, it will. Let's go back to today's BloodHound. All right. So BloodHound does check for updates automatically, something like once a week or every 10 days or something. It's not that often, but it does do check for updates. And there's also a manual check for updates as well. Yeah. Right. So if there is an update, it'll provide a link to a web page where you can download the new update for it. So, and just so you guys know, there is going to be a major update to BloodHound. Just kind of sitting, just waiting for it to be officially launched. So we haven't updated BloodHound actually quite a while, about 8 months or so, 6 months. Yeah, so that's quite a long time, and it's just because I haven't had the chance to go through and kind of officially test some of the fixes and enhancements. But there's going to be this next update to BloodHound is going to be big, a lot of big internal changes. So I'm trying to get it out as soon as I can, but unfortunately other things keep popping up. So yeah, let's see. All right, so I think that takes care of Kyle's questions. Let's see. So Dean's asking, can you set up a strategy with DM PD13? Okay, with the DM with a period 13 crossover. Okay, so I guess, Dean, do you mean like you want the DI plus crossing over the DI minus with one filter using swing strength of 3? That sounds like a fire truck just went by. Yeah, Dean, Dean, I needed a little clarity here. So, a swing strength of 3. I mean, let me put these indicators on the chart here, but I'm not sure. I mean, what do you do with a swing strength of 3? I need a little more detail there, Dean. So in the meantime, let me get these indicators on the chart. All right, so let's go find the DM indicator. Okay, there we go, period of 13. And a swing strength of 3. So what has a swing? Which indicator has a swing strength of 3? Let's go check. Maybe you mean the swing indicator. Okay, let's grab the swing indicator. And there we go, a strength of 3. Let's put those on the chart. Okay, there we go. got these on the chart. Now, Dean, I just need to know what exactly, you know, how exactly are you using these indicators? In the meantime, I'm going to change some colors around. All right, so we've got one condition here. So on the DM indicator, right, when the red line, which is the minus DI, when the red line crosses the blue line, a short signal. So let's see. So that would be a short signal right there. And I take it the opposite would be true. So if the blue crosses above the red line, all right, so the blue, the DI plus, if it crosses the DI minus, we want a long signal. All right, so let's make a crossover signal for that. So let's see. So I'm going to make a new logic template here, and let's name this. All right, let's call it DM example for now. Actually, yeah, we'll call it a DI crossover example, or just DI crossover. All right, so let's grab a crossover solver. Open this up a little bit. So when I like, when I like to work in BloodHound, I like to have my chart on, one side of the screen and BloodHound on the other side, so I can just quickly click back and forth between them. All right, so next we're doing a DI crossover. So let's do what is it? DI plus crossing over a minus DI. So in here in A, we're gonna go put the DI plus plot. So we have to go find the DM indicator. All right, and change the period to 13. And we want the DI plus plot, so we're going to select that for both the long and short. And then down here in B, let's go grab the DM indicator again and change our period to 13. And this time we want to select the minus DI plot. So we'll select that. Okay, so we have the DI plus up here in section A, and we have the minus DI plot down here in section B. And if we look on the chart, here we go. Stretch this out a little bit. Yeah. Now you can see all those DI plots crossing each other. So now the next part here, let's see what Dean's got written down. Okay, all right, so here's a neat condition. So we only want to crossover if the crossover is above 20. All right, we can do that. So let me put a line on here on 20. Okay, so there we go. There's a dashed line sitting there on 20. So, okay, so a decision has to be made here. And I'm going to add another indicator here to help clearly see what's going on here. So just a moment while I get the second indicator set up correctly. All right. So here's what I wanted to show you. And so I'm going to zoom in here. So you guys can see the dots right on top of the lines. So the dots is the actual indicator value, right? The values in between the dots don't exist, right? So when you look at a line, so like right there at the point, the head of the arrow, you know, where that line is, halfway between the dots, that value doesn't exist, right? There's no bar there. So where the dots are is where a bar was created, right? So the dots line up with where the bar is created. So in between bars, there is no indicator value in between bars. So when we look at a crossover, so like right there, this is perfect. You see this crossover right there, the arrow's pointing at the crossover, but you can see there's no dot there, right? That crossover happened, if you look at my cursor, that crossover happened exactly in between two bars. So there actually is no value at that crossover to measure. So if you want to know if a crossover occurred, you know, above a certain value, so in our case above 20, you either have to look at the indicator, you know, prior to the crossover, or look at the indicator after the crossover occurred. You can never look at the indicator value at when it crossed over, because the crossovers happen always in between bars. So and so Dean kind of saw where I was going with this, and so Dean would like to use the lower value. Okay, let's use the lower value. Well, Dean, let's see, we need to know, yeah, really we need to know, are we going to use the indicator value prior to the crossover or after the crossover? Actually, I guess we could check all four values. You know, we could check the indicator prior to the crossover and after the crossover and make sure that all four indicator points are above 20. Let's see. But Dean wants to do after the crossover. Okay. All right, we'll do after the crossover. So, yeah. And so let's find a crossover. Here we go. We'll pick on this long crossover here because it looks like the DI minus is just below our 20, just below the 20 mark there, that dashed white line. So we'll pick on this one here. Okay, so what we're doing is we want our indicator value to be above 20. So the 20 value is a threshold level, right? So the DI plot has to be above a threshold of 20 for this crossover to be considered as a valid crossover. So since our 20 level is a threshold level, we're going to use the threshold solver for this. Let's plug that in there. And so let's do the plus DI plot first. So we're looking for, all right, so we want it to be, yeah, we want the DI to be basically greater than 20. So we could use a greater than symbol, or I'll just abbreviate above 20. So let's go put our indicator plot in here first. Let's go find that DM. All right, change the period to 13, and so we're gonna do the plus DI first, and our threshold level is 20. So I'm just gonna put 20 in there first, 20 in there twice, I mean, and since the DI plus, or I should say the crossover needs to be above 20, that's good for a long and a short crossover at the same time, right? So long output, we're going to set greater than 20, set that to 1, and the same for the short output. So even a short crossover of your DI plots still needs to be above 20. So we're going to set short output above or greater than 20 to 1 as well. Right? So having the DIs above 20 is a non-directional kind of condition. Right? So it's good for longs and shorts. So we want a long and a short output at the same time. Right? And oh, look at that. Interesting. So even though it looks like, oh, I'm sorry, that's right, we're looking at the blue plot right now, not the red one. So that's why we have an output here. So, all right, so we got the plus DI done. So what I'm going to do is take a shortcut here, and let's go grab that solver we just built. I'll make a copy of it. And then what I can do, I'm going to change the name, because this is going to be for the minus DI plot. Now I just go into open up the indicator, and come down here and now select the minus DI, right? Because our DM indicator is already set up for us because I made a copy. And presto, we just built a second solver there in just a few clicks. Alright, so now I need to put that new solver, right? So we got an existing node here. So there it is, the minus DI above 20. So let's put that on the board. There it is. Move it over, connect it up. And now let's take a look at the chart. And yeah, so over here we can see that the red minus DI plot is above the 20 for only 3 bars there, and then it goes below 20, like so. So, all right. So we've got 3 conditions here. So we're going to grab an AND node, right? Because we need the plus DI and the minus DI have to be above 20 at the same time. So let's take a look at that. So now what we see on the chart is when both the DI plus and the DI minus are above 20 at the same time. So whenever we can see, whenever one of the plots goes below 20, there's no BloodHound output. Okay. And now all we need to do is just combine our DI crossover solver, like so. Plug that in there, and there we go. And yeah, so we can see this crossover right there. got taken out because our DI minus is below 20. And there we go. I'll shrink the chart up a little bit, like so. All right. So let me take a look and see if there's any other conditions here that Dean has. All right, so let's see. All right, no follow-up from Dean. And oh, okay, the swing strength of 3. Okay, yeah. So, all right, Dean, I've got a swing indicator on there, but I don't know what to do with it. So, Dean, if you could, explain how to use the swing indicator, then we'll go further. But in the meantime, Kyle is asking, how would you adjust it if you wanted to signal the bar before the crossover? Oh, so Kyle, are you asking how would you adjust it? How would you adjust it if we needed to make sure that the DI plots were above 20 before the crossover, prior to the crossover? Okay, all right, yeah. Okay, yeah. Kyle, okay, I'll get back to your question here afterwards. I want to see how Dean wants to use this swing indicator first, and then we'll come back to this and then do some tweaks to it. Okay, so here we go. So Dean is saying, all right, so we want a long crossover signal only if price closes above the swing low. Okay, and we only want a short crossover only if price closes below the swing. Okay, below the swing high, I'm guessing. All right. Let's see. So it looks like, right, this would be a good, yeah, that would be a good short signal because price is above the swing there. So one thing to note, the NinjaChart is swing indicator backpaints. Right? So what you see on the chart now is not what happens in real time. So let's set this up so that we can see the swing indicator in real time before it backpaints. So I'm going to disconnect my data feed and let's scroll this back here. So keep in mind that the swing indicator stopped plotting right there. So I just marked it. Okay, so let's refresh the chart and step forward. All right, so you can see there's this, that's supposed to be the swing indicator last plot. And look, in real time, look at that. The swing indicator keeps plotting. And look at that, it plotted again. 2 bars after it stopped. See the green arrow? That's when it stopped. So with BloodHound, we can check the price and compare it to the swing indicator to make sure that price is above the low swing plot. And step forward one more. Look at that. Even so, the swing indicator plotted out 3 bars past, and then if I go one more Look at that. It erased itself and started redrawing itself up on top here. All right, so you do have to be aware of indicators that backpaint like that, right? Because obviously, the swing indicator acts differently in real time before it had a chance to backpaint. So, yeah. All right. So, anyways, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at I guess the closing price of the bar and compare it to the swing indicator. So to validate a short crossover, right, we need price to be above the swing indicator, above the swing low, and to validate a long. I'm sorry, I got that backwards. Sorry. A long signal. Sorry, guys, got this backwards here. And let me just double check here. Yeah, sorry, I had this backwards, guys. Sorry. So, this long signal is good as long as price is above the swing low. And so, inversely, this short signal here would be good as long as price is below a swing high, like so. So here, let's see. So this might be a signal that might get removed here. All right, so this long signal looks like this would get removed because it looks like the close of that bar, is equal with the previous swing. Yeah, the previous swing high there. So let me just double check this here. So I'm gonna see how the swing indicator is behaving before I know that. So I'm gonna refresh the chart and then step through it. And yeah, there we go. So let's use a little triangle. There we go. So the swing high stopped plotting as soon as price broke it. So yeah. So therefore, this bar. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I keep getting these backwards. Sorry, guys. I don't know why I'm stuck on this. Yeah, for a long, the price has to be above the low, so that one's good. And let's see. That short is good. So what I'm trying to do is find some signals that would get filtered out. Ah, here we go. So it's always good to find on your chart, some real examples. It's the only way that you can know that you're building your BloodHound logic correctly is to find a real actual example on your chart. So here we go, right here. This guy, that short would get taken out. So you can see there's no swing high plot above it for that short. So therefore that short would get eliminated. Okay, we finally got one here. right, so let's get BloodHound open and figure this out. So what we're doing is a bunch of comparisons, right? We're going to compare the price of the bar to the indicator plot, right? So for a long crossover, we're going to compare the close of the bar to the swing low plot. And for a short signal, we'll compare the close of the bar to the swing high plot. Alright, so let's get BloodHound opened and let's grab a comparison solver. So I'm going to plug this comparison solver in. And let's see. We're going to compare the close. So we're going to see if the close is basically is the closing price above or below the swing high or low. So I think we can do this all in one solver. So we'll just play around with this and see if it can be done in one solver. Okay, so A is going to be the price of the bar, the closing price of the bar. Alright, so we'll set A to price, and it already defaulted to the closing price of the bar. And now B, we're going to set that to the swing indicator. Alright, set our strength to 3. Now, you can see with the swing indicator we've got two plots here. Swing high and swing low. So let's take a look at our chart. And for a long, so according to Dean's rules, for a long crossover signal, we want to compare, we want to make sure that the bar is above the swing low. So for a long signal, we're actually going to use the swing low. And for a short signal, right, so remember this white arrow here marked a short crossover. We want to make sure that the price of the bar is below the swing high. So for a short signal, we're going to use the swing high. So there we go. There's our selections. And
this would get removed. This would get removed. This would get removed. This would get removed.
And I'm just looking at the outputs here. And yes, the outputs look correct. So yeah, as long as price is above the swing highs, we're getting a long output from the solver. And in here, so we can see here we've actually got kind of a unique situation here. We've got price trapped in between a swing low and a swing high. It's kind of interesting. So you'll notice that since price is trapped in between, we're getting a long and a short at the same time. Because price is trapped in between our swing highs and swing lows. And then finally, price breaks below that swing low, right? And then we get shorts only, when price breaks that swing low there. So, all right. So this should be ready to go. Let's connect that up. Let's take our new solver, plug it into the AND node as well, and see what we're left with. right. And let's see here. So I'm going to connect up our DI crossover solver, and let me mark some just some raw crossover signals here, right? So we got lots of crossover signals.
So we can see that there's so we can see that there's so we can see that there's so we can see.
Okay, so I'm going to mark some shorts here as well. Right, so we're looking at the unfiltered crossover signals of our DI plots. All right, our red and blue lines. Okay, and now we're going to look at the whole system here with all the filters in place. And let's take a look. All right. Yeah, so here's what I wanted to note right there. Let's take a look at that guy. So, right, remember we used to have a long signal there, right? Our DIs crossed each other. Our little DI crossover. But that long signal disappeared. But look, we can see that the DI, or I'm sorry, we can see the swing indicator, is plotting there. So, and price is above it. So why isn't there a long crossover signal there? Well, that's because, remember, the indicator backpaints. So let's go back here, and we're going to refresh the chart, and we'll step through this. So look, right there's our DI crossover, but look, where's the swing plot? Right, in real time, that swing plot doesn't exist yet. All right, the swing hasn't been calculated yet. Swing hasn't been determined yet. And then when we step forward one more bar, and then look, the indicator backpaints itself. Right, so that's why that long didn't happen, because the swing indicator backpaints. So just keep in mind, of indicators that backpaint. They do, right, they'll create lots of illusions as you're trying to, build a system. They'll give you lots of false hope when an indicator backpaints. And now this short, right, it was removed, rightfully so, because if you look at where price is compared to the swing high right there, right, price broke above that swing high plot. So let's step through here. And here we go. Here was a short signal. There's our red arrow marking it. And that short signal, once again, it didn't happen because, remember, I had this white arrow pointing at the swing plot line, but we can see that the swing high isn't plotting yet. Yeah, that swing high is not plotting yet. If I step forward one more bar, now we can see the swing high is plotting there. And so this short crossover from the DI, right, that crossed over prior to the swing high being detected, so that short signal got eliminated. And course, we got the long because we're trapped now in between the swing high and swing low, and so forth. Let's see. There's a short. All right, there's a long. And yep, so the swing indicator had plenty of time to detect that swing low point. And short. Oh, there we go. Let's back this up one more time. And so this short signal here didn't occur because if we look up here, if we look up here, there's no swing high, hasn't plotted yet. And it's not until we get to the next bar. Now you can see the swing highs have plotted right there. So, all right, I think that covers it. Let's see, I'll shrink this up a little bit, and let me take a look at the board and see what kind of comments we got here. Let's see, Dean is asking, can you show the parameter values of A and B for the DI crossover? Can you show the... Oh. Okay, yeah, I think Dean is just wanting to look at the solver settings. And let me pull this up. Oop. So that's why I like having my chart off to one side and not covering the whole thing, because you can see BloodHound just disappeared behind it. So let's shrink that chart back up. There we go. And let's see the threshold solver. There we go. So there you go. A is 20 and B is 20. And if you want to know why A and B are both 20, what I would suggest is go watch the video specifically on the threshold solver, and that'll explain why you may want to use 20 and 20 twice versus just 20 once. And so there's a big difference there, and the training video on the threshold solver explains why you'd want to do that. So what you can do is to get to the video. Actually, let's do this. The easiest way to get to the training videos is, let's go to documentation here, pull that up, and you see this menu on the right, on the left hand side. And so here we can see all the solvers under here, and so we can go to the threshold solver, indicator threshold, and just scroll down here, and here we go. Here's the video. So, all right. And let's pull this back up here. Let's see. So I think Dean wanted to look at the other threshold solver. All right, so we have two threshold solvers here, and they're set up exactly the same. Right, the thresholds are both exactly the same. It's just that one, a threshold solver can only look at one plot at a time. Right, so we're looking at the DI plot and the plus DI and the minus DI. So, and let's see. Okay, so it looks like Dean wants to look at the crossover solver. All right, so the crossover solver, A is looking at the plus, the DI plus. So if we open this up, right, we have the plus DI selected first for A, and then for B, that's going to be the minus DI. The minus DI selected for B. Right. So when I when I type in a name for these solvers, I always type in, what goes in A first, and then what goes into B second. So I always try and keep my names consistent with what goes in A versus B. So here, right, I wrote plus DI first, so that means input A is going to be the plus DI, and then crossing over the minus DI, so the minus DI is going to go in B there. And same convention with this comparison solver down here, right? If we look at the name of this, I used close, right? So the closing price goes in A. You can see here in A, I got the closing price selected, and then afterwards I have the swing indicator, right? And I have the swing high-low second, and that's because down here in B I have the swing indicator selected down in B. Okay, let's see. Let's get to Kyle's follow-up question here. So, right, we built this system. So that the DI plot has to be above 20 at the crossover. So let's see. Oh, perfect. Look at this. Great. So we can see right there at the crossover, our DIs are above 20. Right, so remember, that's our 20 line right there. And so Kyle said, well, how would you check the indicators prior to the crossover? So like right there, we can see our plus DI is below 20, right? So that would eliminate this crossover here. So let's do that. Let's see. All right, I'll just name this here. So we got DI crossover with swing, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of this. There's our copy. With okay, so DI crossover. Alright, I'll just rename that one with the DI above 20. And let's see, let's take this out. I took out that comparison solver. Alright, so we'll just focus on just the DI crossover being above 20. So essentially what we want to do is, let's stretch this way out, make it really obvious. So we have our crossover right on this bar, and so if we want to check the DI indicators above 20 prior to the crossover, then what we have to do is we have to look back one bar, right? So when we get a crossover, we then look back one bar and check our DI values one bar back. All right, so let's disconnect that guy right there. And so, and the way we can do that, the way that we can look back one bar, is we can use NinjaTrader's displacement feature. So this displacement is actually a NinjaTrader feature. Right? Have you guys ever used the displacement on your charts? If you pull up your list of indicators, you'll see that if you select an indicator, there is a displacement right there. Right? All indicators have this displacement underneath visual. So, so that's what we're doing. We're using this displacement, which basically what it does is it takes this value one bar back, and the displacement shifts it forward however many bars you want. So if you use a displacement of 1, it's going to take the indicator value and shift it forward by 1 bar. So that's kind of a way of for BloodHound to look at an indicator value 1 bar back. So that's all we need to do is just use this displacement feature here. And I don't want to change the displacement on these, because remember what I did is I made a copy. Remember earlier I made a copy. So like if I take the DI plus and I set a displacement of 1 on there, then what happens is when I go back to the other logic template, and if I click on this solver here, see it changed that solver as well, because those two solvers are one and the same. Right, they're both this solver right here. If we go back to the list of solvers, it's right, there's only one solver here, and so we're using the same solver in both logic templates. So if I change logic templates, right, we're using the same solver here in both logic templates. So if I change one, right, it changes them all. Right, so if I go back to the solver list and I click on that plus DI above 20, see the displacement set to 1. If I change it to 0, and then I go back to the logic template and I select the solver, you can see, right, it's been changed back to 0. So this node, this object, is the same object in multiple places here. So what I want to do is I'm actually going to make a copy of it, that one, and make a copy of that. And what I can do is I'll just put a little note in there. Usually I put like a displacement 1 if I'm going to use the displacement feature. So I know that the DI plus has been displaced by one bar. And I'll do the same here. I'll put a displacement 1, and I'll set a 1 in my displacement there. Okay, so now I have 2 new solvers here. So let's go back to the board. So I'm actually going to dump these guys. I'll delete them off of there. And let's go to the existing nodes, and there you go. There's my DI plus with a displacement of 1. And then grab my DI minus with a displacement of 1. And so now let's connect everything up. Okay, so there's our crossover. Right, so we got DI crossover, and now let's connect our threshold of 20 requirement. Plug that in, plug that in. And let's take a look at the chart now. All right, there we go. So this crossover disappeared. So that's because the indicators of 1 bar back weren't above 20. And let's let's see what else we got here. Yeah, that's a good one. And here we go. Here's one. So there we go. So our minus DI was below 20 prior to the crossover. So no crossover signal. And if we look here, yeah, both indicators were above 20 just prior to that crossover. So that one was good. And yeah, another example. Okay, so there's a crossover, but our DI minus again was below 20. All right, so there you go, Kyle. So the key was using that displacement to be able to look back however many bars you need to look back on your indicator.